Quick review of Algebra 1. The multiplication property of 0. A number times 0 equals 0. The zero product property. If a times b equals 0 and a does not equal b, then either a equals 0 or b equals 0. The substitution property. Let a equal x minus r and b equal x minus s. In any expression, a can be replaced by x minus r and b can be replaced by x minus s. What does x minus r times x minus s equals 0 imply? On the previous slide, we had x minus r times x minus s equals 0. And we were asked, what does that imply? Well, one of these has to be equal to 0 in order for this whole thing to be equal to 0. So we have two choices. X minus r equals 0 or x minus s equals 0. Therefore, x would equal r or x would equal s. If x equals r, that would mean this would be r minus r, so this would be 0, and anything multiplied by 0 would also in turn be equal to 0. So let's apply this to some problems. X minus 4 equals 0. Therefore, either x equals 0, because if x equals 0, this would be 0, this would be negative 4, 0 times negative 4 equals 0, or our other option is x minus 4 equals 0, or therefore x equals 4. If we add 4 to both sides of this little equation here, if x equals 4, we would have 4 times 4 minus 4. This would be 0. 4 times 0 equals 0. Let's apply that concept down here. So we have three numbers multiplied together. 2, x plus 5, and x minus 2. 2 equals 2. It does not equal 0, so let's move on. One of our options is that x equals negative 5. If x equals negative 5, then this whole thing would be 0, therefore, and it would be multiplied by 2 and x minus 2, and in this case, this would be equal to negative 7, this would be 0. 2 times 0 times negative 7 equals 0. We also have one other alternative, x equals 2. If x equals 2, that would mean that this little portion here, x minus 2 equals 0, x equals 2. If x equals 2, this would go to 0. This would be 3, but we would have 2 times 3 times 0, which equals 0. So you can see here that we actually have two solutions. Either x equals 0 or x equals 4. Both of those situations would say that this whole thing was true, that this was 0. Here we have two solutions as well. Either x equals negative 5, which would eliminate this number here, or x equals 2, which would mean that this would be 0. If either of those are 0, the whole thing is 0 because they're multiplied together. Solve. Factor first if necessary. This is already factored, so we have two solutions here. If x equals 0, then this whole thing will equal 0, so that is one of our solutions. If x equals negative 1, then this portion will be 0, making the whole thing 0. So negative 1 is our second solution. Here, it's already factored. We have three things multiplied together, 2, x plus 2, and x minus 3. This can't be 0, so we'll just move on. If x is negative 2, that would set this portion equal to 0, so that's our first solution. And here, if x equals 3, this would be 0. So our second solution is 3. Here we have to factor first. So we have x and x. These are both plus signs, so these will also both be plus signs. And the numbers 5 and 2 work great. 5 times 2 is 10, 5 plus 2 is 7. This is our equation. Now we can see that the two solutions are negative 5 and negative 2. All right, here we have to factor. So first we have to divide out the greatest common factor, which is 5. So we'll take 5. That gives us 2x squared plus x minus 6 equals 0. So now we have to factor this. It's a little trickier because there's the 2 there. So we'll have 2x and x. one of these will be plus and minus because this is negative, but this is positive. So let's just try out negative and positive. A reason why I'm putting the negative sign here is because we have this 2 here. Whatever number is over here has the potential to be larger, and because this middle number is positive, I'm just going to try out negative sign here first, but this could easily be the other way around. When it comes to factoring, sometimes you just got to try a bunch of different options. So let's try, all right, numbers that multiply together to get 6. We're going to have 2 and 3, or 6 and 1. Now I feel like 2 or 3 are going to be the numbers, but because 6 and 1, if we multiply 6 times 2, we'll have 12, which is way larger than the number we're going for, which is positive 1 here when you're adding them together. And even if this was 6 and this was 1, then that would be, we would have 2x squared plus 2x minus 6x minus 6. This would end up being negative 4x, which is negative and 4x instead of positive. So I don't think our numbers are going to be 6 and 1. So let's go with 2 and 3. Let's try first 3 and 2. That gives us 2x squared plus 4x minus 3x plus or minus 6. And look, that works great because 4x minus 3x gives us plus 1x, and this is negative 6. So this is our answer here. So I'm going to rewrite this neatly. 5 times 2x minus 3 times x plus 2. That is our equation, factored. Therefore, we have two solutions. X is either going to be negative 2 or 2x minus 3 equals 0. So we have to do a little more solving. 2x equals 3, x equals 3 halves. So 3 halves would be the solution that would set this portion equal to 0. Here are our two solutions. And we got them all correct.